You might have a few opportunities to write an evidence brief, and you might get different opportunities over the course of your career. So the first opportunity that you're going to have, or that you might have, is that you're doing new research, either leading research or participating in research, first authoring a paper, co-authoring a paper, like you're doing something in research. The point of research is to gain new knowledge about how the universe works. You have done so, and now you see an immediate practical benefit to that research. This is very, very similar to policy briefs. Policy briefs are what happens when you want to transform research and you've uncovered new research and you've done new things and you want the rest of the world to know about it. You want to change policy action. This is very similar. You've uncovered new research, new information, and you want to put it into practical use. And you can see in your head, oh, we've learned something new in research. We need to change something. Either practitioners need to add something, subtract something, change something, but we need to put this into action. And I feel like it's immediate. I don't want to wait another 5 years and another few studies to come along. Like this is of importance now in the real world because people, the patients of these practitioners could be helped in a very, very short amount of time. So it's almost, I tend to think of these things as ethical duties. Other people have different opinions, and that's fine. I view it as an ethical duty. The tax-paying public is probably responsible for your research. You have found something new that can benefit them. I believe it is your ethical duty to go out and communicate that to them. And you do this by writing an evidence brief so practitioners can update their methods. And so that the taxpayer who paid for your work gets some benefit out of it. Another opportunity you might have is that you're conducting a review of existing literature. Maybe you're performing a meta-analysis. Maybe you're performing a survey. Maybe you're writing a summary article or book chapter, or maybe you've been asked to give a conference presentation, giving a broad survey of some aspect of research. Or maybe you're just doing it on your own as part of your own investigation, and you want to be systematically aware of everything else going on in your community. And you're trying to form a consensus. You are trying to create a consensus by doing this review. Like, look, we've done all these studies, we've done all these analyses, we've had all these conversations. What is the current state of the field in terms of agreement and disagreement? What can we agree on? What can we build a consensus around? This is a great opportunity to write an evidence brief, because practitioners from the outside looking into academia sometimes, and I say this with all love and respect, sometimes it looks like we can't agree on anything, because that's the nature of science. Science is, in research, it is founded on skepticism and debate and healthy debate and going back and forth and looking at different lines and trying to pull down other results. Like that's one of the ways that science works and does its thing. But eventually we end up agreeing on some things, right? Like, I don't know, the germ theory of disease or the age of the earth. Like, we eventually arrive at some conclusions. But to practitioners sometimes, especially if it's a relatively hot topic, especially if it's a relatively new direction or new angle, practitioners may just see competing papers back and forth. Sometimes there's evidence for, sometimes there's evidence against, sometimes it's mixed. It seems like they might just sit back and say, wow, when it comes to this issue or this particular thing that I'm practice or is my specialty, it looks like the researchers don't really know what's going on. And so an evidence brief is a great opportunity that if there is some sort of consensus, if there are things that different people in the research community can agree on, and you are writing that, you are summarizing those consensus points, that is very powerful to send off to the practitioners in the form of an evidence brief so that they can look back and say, okay, there are some things they agree on. This is what they agree on, and this is how I can modify my practice. And then here's some things that they do disagree on. This is where the evidence is mixed, so I know I don't have to modify that part of my practice yet. So it's a very, very powerful tool in that direction as well. It's also possible, and will likely happen at some point, that the practitioners themselves are soliciting these. That a professional group of practitioners is saying, we need more information. We are seeing in ourselves a deficit of practice. We are seeing ourselves that we're not being as effective as we would like to be. Hey, research community, can you help us out? Can you summarize something? Can you write an evidence brief to help us gain some clarity? So those requests can come from outside the own research community. A lot of times you're going to write an evidence brief because you are motivated to write an evidence brief. It comes from inside the research community, but it can also come from outside the research community. Just like with policy briefs. So policy briefs might be motivated from your own work and research, or you might be asked by some external agent like a government agency to create a policy brief to help them make decisions. It's very, very similar. You can write an evidence brief based on your own motivation from your own research, or the community of practitioners can come out from the outside and ask you, like, all of a sudden a bunch of practitioners show up at your local research conference or your department, and they're asking for some answers. And then what do? You write an evidence brief.